Hi everybody, this is Agnes from Sediment, and today we are going to taste some of Wine Spectator's top 10 wines of 2025, and we're going to talk about this very exciting list. In all honesty, I did not want to make this video because every year it is the same old, exciting wines from Wine Spectator, just different vintages. My cameraman and I were following the reveal, and by the time they announced the top 3, I was frustrated beyond measure and simply did not want to talk about this list anymore. But my cameraman insisted, so here we are. Blame him. California heavily dominates the top 10 list, just like the year before. One wine from Piemonte, Nebbiolo of course, just like the year before. One Chateauneuf-du-Pape, again, just like the year before. And of course we have Bordeaux. Now, last year we didn't have it, but if we exclude that, we have Bordeaux on almost every top 10 list, sometimes twice. No doubt Bordeaux makes some really exciting wines, but it is always the same old labels, the 1855 classed Bordeaux. As if Cru Bourgeois does not exist, as if Castillon and Lalande de Pomerol do not exist. And let me tell you something, these wines can be just as exciting, if not more exciting, than those huge brands. Bordeaux is so much more than second, third, and fifth growths. At this point, it feels less like an independent wine magazine, but rather a person or a small group of people who love certain style of wine, have developed a certain taste, and feel absolutely no need to peek outside their comfort zone. I am not denying that I will enjoy these wines with great pleasure. I have been enjoying Produttori del Barbaresco 2021 for a while now, a magnificent vintage and trustworthy producer. I have talked on this channel about my love for Giscours. I have visited them. I really enjoy their style. I have tasted ridge light on springs of several vintages, and I think this wine is top quality. But dude, you are Wine Magazine, one of the most influential in the world. So for love of God, show that the wine world is so much more than that. Because where is Greece, Spain, Portugal, South Africa, Austria, Germany, Hungary? And these are already well-established winemaking countries. I am not even talking about up-and-coming regions and grape varieties. So yes, while I am happy to taste the wines, the list for me is still very disappointing. Especially because as we scroll past the top 10, we see it repeating itself. Wines 10 to 20, another Bordeaux, another California, 2 more Chianti Classicos. And only a Sauvignon Blanc from Margaux manages to creep into the 20th spot. Let's scroll further. Tuscany again, California again, Bordeaux again, and one Provence Rosé. After 30 wines, only 5 countries appear, and even then, New Zealand has 1 wine and Chile has 2. So basically, out of 27 wines, only 3 countries are worth exploring? Scrolling on, we reach wine number 39, and we are still only in 5 countries. They are finally saved at the 40th place with Remy Yuri from Rioja, Spain. Now that we have crossed that line, things are starting to get interesting. We get Lazio, a Vermentino from Liguria, and Manzoni Bianco. Yes, we are still in Italy, but at least these start to feel like roads less traveled. Then we reach number 85, and I cannot believe my eyes. Now this is the wine they should have put in the top 3. In fact, they practically did it themselves because it has the highest score of any top 10 wine, a white Bordeaux Smith au Lafite 2022. It has 97 points. None of the wines in the top 10 have more than 96. Yes, it is an ultra-premium priced wine, but placing it at the top would have shown that they actually understand how the market is shifting and what are the current trends. And this is really exciting wine. My eyes also sparkle at number 93, Famille Libaud Muscadet Clisson. You might remember that last year, after the Wine Spectator Top 10 video, I released my top 10, and this very wine was on that list. I am also very excited to see White Rioja and Savennières here. Can I just say that I am more excited about the bottom 50 than I was by the top 50 wines. I guess I am a bottom feeder. So now that I have let my frustration out, let's introduce ourselves with the top 10 wines by Wine Spectator of 2025. I have wine number 10 here with me, and that is Chateauneuf-du-Pape from Famille Isabel Ferrando 2022 vintage. They recently changed the name of the estate, and now it is Isabel Ferrando and her daughter on the front. Okay, so let's start with the smelling and tasting the wines. I will be honest with you, I do enjoy Chateauneuf-du-Pape as well. It is one of the wine styles I like, and I think they can make some really beautiful wines. Sometimes I will maybe choose something else because naturally Chateauneuf-du-Pape wines tend to have higher alcohol levels, and I do pay attention a little bit to it. But of course, when the wine is made beautifully and when it's all integrated and balanced, you simply do not feel the alcohol on the palate or on the nose. And it does have that red berry, that really ripe strawberry, raspberry, bursting cherry flavor. There's also some of that smokiness, some cedar wood and some sweet toast on the nose. And like dried garrigue maybe, or dried Mediterranean herbs. Just hints of them here and there. Let's taste the wine. This is the very first wine for me today, and it is relatively early morning when we are tasting this wine. So thank God to the really soft and kind of mellow tasting tannins. They are tickling your palate, but they are not dominating it. We have beautiful, lively acidity. It is not also the dominant feature. It is really the fruit that shines here. What is interesting, and I do believe that this wine would appeal to many palates because there is this really ripe, almost sweet tasting mid-palate, like ripe, sweet fruit dominated mid-palate. And I'm just wondering if this is a bit of residual sugar or is it all about the fruit ripeness? But the finish is completely dry and almost earthy a little bit. And so I would want to say that this is mostly due to the ripeness of the fruit. I will give this wine 92 points. Let's move to wine number 9, which is Chianti Classico from Castello di Ama 2021 vintage, which is really good vintage in Italy, and this is Gran Selezione, San Lorenzo. So I do like my Chianti Classicos a lot. So it might seem that I am criticizing the very palate I have myself because I do enjoy Chateauneuf-du-Pape, I do enjoy Chianti Classico or Barbaresco, Nebbiolo altogether, you know that. I just thought that, giving their platform, maybe they should have added something more, to the list. But we've talked about that. Oh, this is really interesting. And from the very first nose, I would not directly go to the Chianti Classico. For me, Chianti Classicos are usually packed with these really bright red sour cherries, red berries, ripe, but there's this beautiful sourness, freshness, zestiness to it. This one is really ripe. It almost seems opulent. And there's a lot of smokiness to it. There's a lot of vanilla and that really intense, like sweet toast character to it. You almost have to dig through the winemaking to find the fruit. There's also some like blue plummy character to it. I think this is a great wine. I think there's a lot of complexity to it, and I absolutely think that this wine will develop into something beautiful and age gracefully and add extra complexity with its tertiary aromas. And I somehow feel the Sangiovese soul in there somewhere, but it is well hidden. I will tell you this, because Sangiovese, it has this nerviness. It has really high, bright acidity. It has like packed of tannin, and the tannin is very textural. It's always elevated. And here, I almost feel like the wine has been made to taste a bit softer, maybe a bit polished. But I think somewhere the Sangiovese soul is trying to shine through. And maybe it is slightly opening up. Now I do feel on the nose a bit of that, smoked cherry character. And with second and third sip, the acidity feels maybe more prominent, and this is where the Sangiovese is shining for me. I will give this wine 93 points. Let's move to the 8 wine. No, we cannot move to the 8 wine because we do not have 8 wine. Wine number 8 was Wayfarer Pinot Noir. To be honest, it was almost impossible to get any of the American wines, the wines from United States, here in Europe. Some of those wines are almost only on allocation, and you can get them only when you sign up. And I don't live in the United States. I live here in Europe, so it was impossible to get them. Yes, so unfortunately, I cannot taste all of the top 10, but we will move to the wine number 7, which I am quite familiar with. We have visited the state actually together.
Barbaresco hangover is kind of easier for you than a Barolo hangover. You can try and you tell me. I proved that. I have experience in that aspect.
So there is a podcast interview with Aldo Vacca from Produttori del Barbaresco. 2021 vintage is one of the top vintages you can get in Barolo and Barbaresco, and I think it was Gaia who told me that if you see 2021 and you love Barolo and Barbaresco, make sure to have those wines in your cellar because they are beautiful today and they will be beautiful after 10 and 20 years. So of course, it makes sense by Wine Spectator to add this wine. This is great value, by the way, as well, because it is a cooperative. And as a cooperative, it is a very unique one because they work only with Nebbiolo. And so they know their Nebbiolo grape. That very small, sniff during the conversation with you guys, and it was just opening up. It had that perfume on the nose. It has these really ripe red cherries, slightly smoked strawberries, but it also has some of the lilac and violets and roses and peonies on the nose. It's just so floral and perfumed. It is a complete wine on the palate. Like when I sipped it, and you kind of expect from Nebbiolo this really high acidity and that really intense, large, almost like full power on tannin. But here, this wine, the first sip you feel is all the flowers, all the berries, it is so many flavors that are just packed on this one first sip. And then the acidity comes and it just prickles and it teases. And then the tannin comes, and the tannin, it just frames the wine and it adds a bit of structure to the wine, and it adds a bit of grown-upness to the wine, if you understand my expression of it. It just adds a bit of kick, and I do think this is beautiful wine. And of course, knowing the people behind this wine, and of course, knowing how much they have invested into making this wine, it makes me a bit of guilty to criticize the list, because I would say this wine absolutely deserves the place. Maybe the argument is that we should always try to look, around the corner and look for something else. I do love my Barolos, I do love my Barbarescos, I do love my Nebbiolo grape variety. But, if you add it every year on the list, it just means that you are not looking, beyond these regions, beyond these grape varieties. So yes, 2021 vintage, absolutely amazing, great value, 94 points. Let's move to wine number 6, which I was happy enough to find, and that is Clos Apalta. So we are now in Chile with the dominant grape variety of Carmenere. Carmenere is a very unique grape variety. And I think it is sometimes or oftentimes misunderstood. You just smell it and it screams, I am carbonara. This is beautiful. This is something that you want from wine. You want from wine to express where it's from, what grape variety it is made from. So there was a bit of confusion for me in the wine number 9, because I guess they add a bit of Merlot to it. You know, it's not all Sangiovese or local grape varieties. So I guess there's also a bit of new oak to it. And maybe I personally felt that it was a bit polished and poshed. And here, so you have that kick of jalapeno pepper on the nose. You have that tomato leaf, that basil, dried basil character, and it is all mixed with these blackberries, blueberries, cassis, and you know, it's carbonara. It just screams in the glass, I am what I am. You know, you love me or you hate me, I don't care. I am unapologetically me. And of course, that color, that really deep, intense, you know, ruby color. But it is not just fruit and those green elements. There's also some notes of smokiness, you know, tobacco leaf, hint of cigar box maybe. This is really warm wine. It tells you that I'm coming from warm climate. There is this fruit ripeness, there is this lusciousness, that debauchery of fruit almost, and it is packed on the palate. We do have beautifully integrated acidity. It is not too high, it is not mouth-watering or zesty in any way, but it definitely adds great balance to the really luscious and ripe fruit flavors. And we do have super polished, really ripe tannins. I do understand where the appeal is with this wine. It is big wine, it is opulent wine, it is loud wine, but at the same time, it does not lack elegance. It is still very smart wine. And I really wonder how this wine would develop with age, because all of that expressiveness of fruit might calm down a little bit and leave room to more of the tertiary, you know, complexity. And that would be really exciting. I think that sometimes these really ripe fruit-driven wines are so appealing in their youth that we forget that they can actually age beautifully as well and maybe offer a bit of different dimension with age. I will give this wine 96 points. Let's move to wine number 5, which we do have. This one comes from Saint-Emilion, so we are in Bordeaux. This is Chateau Beau-Sejour Becot 2022 vintage, an absolutely amazing vintage in Bordeaux. And of course, we are with this wine in the right bank of Bordeaux. So it is where Merlot and Cabernet Franc dominates, not Cabernet Sauvignon. I do like this nose. There is some quiet elegance to it. There is some calmness to it, but at the same time, it is quite seductive. These really small, tiny, blue-colored plums, but they're with a lot of flavor. They're really concentrated, and you know, they're fresh and zesty. So it does not seem cooked or really overly ripe. At the same time, we do have some of that smokiness to it, you know, hint of fireplace, just, you know, some really aromatic wood burning in the fireplace. We Latvians smoke and burn, you know, wood a lot. We know our wood, and this brings me some memories back from childhood. Some cedar wood as well. Like, you feel that there is some oak, but it seems really well integrated because, first of all, it is the fruit that shines. And some earthy hint like pencil shaving or graphite. Let's taste this wine. Yes, I mean, this wine, it almost has a burgundy character to it. If you're not paying attention to it, it's not screaming at you. It's not, you know, loud and saying, here I am. You really have to converse with this wine. So on the palate, it just felt so seamless, so really elegant and precise, but at the same time, it was not punching you. So I think this wine is this quiet kind of beauty that oftentimes in blind tastings, you just miss, because when you taste all of these really, you know, bigger, louder wines, these ones just stay there in the corner, just shining bright. And you know, when there's a lot of noise, you just miss it. And I think this wine has that elegance and has that presence. I do enjoy it greatly. And it has that beautifully polished tannin texture. You almost don't feel it. And this wine is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is the 5th place, and it is the 5th wine I'm tasting. And somehow it seems softer and riper on the palate than any of the wines before. But you know, tannin builds up on the palate because it binds and sticks with protein. So it is really interesting that here with this wine, I feel like it's so soft, it's caressing your palate. The acidity is there, it's just part of the fruit. And I would always expect Saint-Emilion to have quite high alcohol because, you know, Merlot develops elevated alcohol levels. But here this wine has 14, and I did not feel it. You know, on the blind tasting, I would say it is 13.5 max. It is just so well integrated within the wine. I will give this wine 96. By far, at this moment, it is one of my favorite wines. Unfortunately, we cannot move to wines 4, 3, and 2. I have ordered wine Ridge, Lighten Springs, but unfortunately, it took way longer to deliver, so it is not here today. I have tasted that wine, different vintages though, and I always marked it really highly. And I think they done amazing things with Zinfandel, which is, you know, grape variety I find myself quite difficult to work with. The 4th wine is William Salem Pinot Noir. That is one of the wines you can get almost exclusively only on allocation. And despite it being almost like a cult wine, I'm surprised that we do not have it here in Europe, so it is almost impossible to get it. And then on the 2nd place, we have a white wine, Aubert Chardonnay from Sonoma Coast. And that is something, by the way, a producer at least, I have seen several times on the top 10 list, so this is not their first rodeo here. And unfortunately, it was also not available for us. And I would have been really excited to taste white wine amongst these red wines here. But because the wine number 1 was wine from Europe, from Bordeaux, Chateau Giscours from Margaux 2022 vintage, we do have it. And I was really excited because that is a producer that I love. When I first visited them, I was really excited about their wines. And I have had it in wines from Giscours several times on this channel. So I have not tasted 2022 vintage, so that will be a first one for me as well. Now this one is really out there. It is really expressive. You do feel that it is a young wine. Like in wine number 5 from Saint-Emilion, it had that youthfulness to it, but it had maturity also, but like mind or smart, like, you know, like a just wise person. So there was this kind of mindful maturity to the wine. This one, it just tells you, hi, I'm a youngster. You also see that in the color, like there is these bluish violety tones to it. Okay, now you're coming down a little bit. Because before it was all blueberries, you know, bursting wild blueberries in the glass. And now this wine, as I'm aerating it in the glass, starts to show a bit of that smokiness, a bit of that toastiness. A bit of, you know, like toasted nutty character to it. Okay, you're calming down. We do have way more energy in this wine. So it has that elevated acidity. It is part of the fruit. It is not shining alone, but we definitely have a bit of energy, a bit of nerviness to it. The tannin is firmer, elevated. It is tightly grained and tightly knit. So there's almost no way through it, but at the same time, it is really beautifully and elegantly done. It is not aggressive in any way, and it is a young wine. I think the mid palate is just packed with a lot of fruit, but that fruit is really fresh and bursting and lively, and I would want to see a bit of calmness to it. And that wine will come down over the next 10, 20, 30 years. I think this wine will age gracefully. You know, Bordeaux always tastes younger than it is. And it is surprising that for such a young wine, it develops and changes in the glass as we speak. There is a lot of pleasure to the wine, a lot of appeal to this wine. I will give this wine 94 points. I will happily enjoy it, over next evenings. And I will happily store some bottles in my wine fridge or wine cellar for the next 10 to 20 years. Okay, you guys, my spirit has lifted a little bit, and there's definitely more smile in my face because I've tasted these really amazing, beautiful wines. And there was no doubt about it that the wines that Wine Spectator selects are great, are magnificent. And this tasting has proved it. I mean, we have no lower than 92 points. So that is amazing. And you see the smile on my face right now. But I still want to say this, there's so much more out there, and we keep walking the same old roads. And you know, when you walk the same old road, you end up to the same old place. So why not, take some roads less traveled and see where the wine world would deliver us, what else there is beyond these amazing, beautiful, classic examples. And of course, we are always allowed to come back, those are our guilty pleasures. We already know that these wines are great. We already know that these winemaking regions produce amazing quality examples. And of course, Bordeaux needs a bit of spark now. It is really in a complex place now. So I am happy to see 2 Bordeaux wines. I might have been more happy to taste today white Bordeaux, to be honest with you, but that's in the past. I want to let you know that as in previous years, I will also publish my top 10 wines of this year. There will be wines that I have discovered or tasted again, and I just find they're really exciting and interesting, and I just want to give them a shout out. So thank you very much for watching this video. I will be happy to receive your comments, what you think about Wine Spectator's top 10, top 100. Was I a bit too harsh today? Please just don't get offended by it. This was just my honest opinion. And if you're still sticking around, make sure to watch this video next.